Hello there, everyone, and welcome to Season 3, Week 2 of the Lyons Quiz League. First of all, you'll probably notice that my audio is not synced with the screen right now. That's because I forgot to turn my mic on for the first 10 minutes of this video, so I didn't catch any of the audio, so I'm voicing over after the fact. And the second thing that I want to mention is that I'm very sorry for letting this go this long. I know I apologized in the previous video, but this one has gone even longer without seeing the light of day, and I apologize. I know it's less interesting for you guys to watch like a month later, so sorry about that, but all of the rest of the videos for this season will be coming shortly. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say before we get into the video, and it's probably already showing the quizzes, so yeah, let's get into the quizzes. Alright, so quiz 1. The first question asks, the Golden Triangle is a region in Southeast Asia that is home to a large portion of the world's production of what crop with illicit uses? So I figure it's some kind of drug-related thing, and I wasn't sure which crop it would be. I thought of things like marijuana, but I didn't think that made a lot of sense, and I thought of like tobacco, but I associate tobacco with more being like an American thing rather than Southeast Asia in terms of where it's grown. So the only other thing I could think of was opium, which is China famously had like the opium wars, and I associate opium more with Asia, so I figured it made the most sense out of anything I could come up with. Question number 2 talks about, sorority Delta 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 has alumna Joan Didion, and her essay Slouching Towards Bethlehem takes its title from a line in The Second Coming by William Butler Yeats. That's just a famous Yeats poem that happens to have that line in it. That's just something that I knew cold. Question number 3. Critically panned 2024 movie starring the Underground's actors Daryl Griggs and Xian Altman has a 2-word title whose second word is triangle. What is the first word of the title? It is also the first word in each of a trilogy of movies that were released from 93 to 01, and then a sequel trilogy released between 2015 and 2022. Each of which grossed over $1 billion worldwide. So this one, I was so annoyed about this question because, well, I was annoyed after the fact, which I guess you'll probably see. But I couldn't think of anything for this. I was trying to think of stuff like, could it be Star Wars? But that doesn't make sense with, like, the years. Could it, because, like, Rise of Skywalker was not 2022. Could it be some kind of Star Trek thing? Could it be Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit? But none of those fit. I ended up guessing Spider because of Spider-Man, and because Spider-Man is hyphenated, so it's like kind of 2 words. Because I know that there are a lot of Spider-Man movies. I haven't seen almost any of them, but the years made a little bit more sense in my head for Spider-Man. The annoying part is that I thought of Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, etc., and didn't put it because I was unaware that the original Jurassic Park was part of a trilogy. And apparently it is. I knew that there was a new trilogy, but I didn't know that the old movies were actually 3 of them, and also 93, I thought the movie was older than that. So maybe it was maybe it was a different trilogy. I'm not really sure. But I thought of Jurassic and then just discounted it because I didn't think it could be right. So that ends up being unfortunate for me. But question 4, which I've been looking at for a while and just saying a bunch of nonsense about, it's a fashion question, so if it's a fashion question, the rule is I'm not going to get it right because I have no idea. But I'd never seen either of those 2 logos before. They're just triangular logos. And yeah, so I guessed Gucci, which is obviously wrong, but I figure it says Milano, so I would guess something that has an Italian name, but I knew, I was quite confident that wasn't going to be right. But yeah, that was unfortunate. It ended up being like Prada or something, which is really sad because that's like a well-known thing, but I've never seen that logo before. Anyway, question number 5. One of the theories about the danger of the Bermuda Triangle has to do with the unusual behavior of ships' navigational systems, which happens because of the, I can't read it because it's agonic line, which is a feature of the Earth's magnetic field, which I didn't know, I guessed, but I figured it made the most sense. It made a lot of sense. It's an invisible thing that messes with compasses, basically, so I figure it's probably a magnet. And then question 6 is about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that's just another thing that I can't really say much about it. It's just like the hierarchy of needs is named after a guy called Maslow, so that's just what that one is going to be. So yeah, that was quiz number 1. I'm trying to play along so that my audio is somewhat synced with the video here. So I'm like looking at the video right now, and I haven't submitted the quiz yet, but I think I will probably submit it soon, and then we can quickly take a look at the answers once I do that. But I think this quiz went decently well. I mean, I was never going to get the fashion question. What ended up, I think I was debating what to enhance here is the thing I was doing. I ended up switching from 6 to 2, I think. Yeah. So I moneyed Yeats, or enhanced Yeats, because I figured people might not know literature as well as I do, which I don't know if that ended up being the right decision or not, but everything in there was decent for me, except, again, fashion I wasn't getting, and then Jurassic I was just kind of kicking myself for, because it was like I just absolutely should be getting that question, but I didn't, so unlucky. But yeah, that's how quiz 1 went, so let's go ahead and get a move on and see what's going on in quiz number 2. Alrighty, so quiz number 2 was a secret theme quiz written by Looney. So this is a very interesting one, so I'm excited to sort of walk you guys through how I was thinking about this quiz. So, question 1 was about acetone. It's saying this is the formula for what compound, and acetone is the simplest ketone, and it's also a nail polish remover, so that's just kind of something I knew. So starting out with that one, question 3, I was just filling in what I knew, because I figure it helps to have the most answers if you want to figure out what the theme is. Anyway, the thinker is a poet contemplating the actions of sinners from Inferno, which is the first section of Dante's Divine Comedy. So that one is Inferno. And then question 6, I was not sure, but I had a guess that it could be Yo-Yo Ma. It's, I don't know, somebody leaving an extremely expensive instrument in a taxi cab. I don't know. It just, extremely expensive instrument made me think of a cello. So I just kind of thought, okay, who's a famous, person who plays an instrument? So those were my 3 sort of thoughts coming into the quiz. And then my 4th thought that I was far from sure about was question 4. A capital city that's a francophone respelling of something that was presumably in Africa. And I figured it could be Ouagadougou. Again, that's kind of a guess, but it made sense. And at this point, I had these written in and I realized, wait a second, the first one starts with an A, and then we have an I on question 3, 4 starts with an O, and then the last one starts with a Y. So it's like we're starting with vowels successively. So I'm like, okay, that's probably what the theme is. But then I wasn't sure for a little while what to do with the rest of the questions, because it's like the second one starts with an E, but it's like, what is it? It could still be anything. And then I realized there's more to the theme than that. It's not just the first letters. It is, of course, the last letter of one word is the first letter of the next one. So it kind of goes in a loop, which makes a lot more sense. So I figure, okay, if it starts with E and ends in I, there's only one word that's in emotion that I can think of that makes any sense for that, and that would be ennui. So that would be the answer for number 2, which I'll fill in probably shortly. And then same thing with question 5. I wasn't sure what was going on here. I was thinking it could be Uzbekistan or Uruguay or Uganda or something like that. But I realized when I knew it had to end in a Y that it had to be Uruguay. Now, I'll explain this because, this is obviously Luis Suarez in hindsight, and I don't know how I didn't think of this. But what I thought was happening was I thought it was that meme with the guy who's, biting the medal and, celebrating after getting 3rd place or whatever, and his teeth are, shining or whatever. That meme where the dude, you guys know the one. So I thought that was apparently a representation of a real thing. And I was like, wait a second, I don't know what country the guy from the meme is from. So I was completely off base, but I didn't think of Suarez for some reason, even with all the biting and teeth clues. So that was a bit dumb of me. But anyway, I got there in the end and then facepalmed when I heard what the sort of actual explanation for question 5 was. But really interesting theme. So thanks to Looney for putting that together. I really, really enjoyed that. And so we went A, E, I, O, U, Y, and it was really fun to sort of back solve and fill in the questions that I didn't know once I figured out what the theme was. So that was a blast, and I'm about to get my audio back, so I'll see you guys later. All right, so I just realized that my mic was not recording sound, which sucks. I should have tested it beforehand. But I guess what I'm going to do is try and do a voiceover of those first 10 minutes of the video where I just say roughly what I said with the sound muted. So yeah, we'll pick up from here. Anyway, so hopefully I just, on the voiceover, I just explained the theme and how I figured this quiz out. But yeah, that's kind of rough. Anyway, I'm going to enhance number 2, and I'm going to submit. And there's your CAPTCHA, which we did not get in the first section. But acetone, ennui, inferno, Ouagadougou, Uruguay, yo-yo ma. So that is 6 out of 6, which is very nice. And now we have sound. So yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, on to quiz number 3, which is the pop culture quiz. Question 1, what TV show had its name changed to Doctor's Conscience for release in Slovenia? In most other broadcasts, the show is named for its title character, whose personality and investigative methods were inspired by Sherlock Holmes. I have no idea. I'm going to guess like House MD because, I mean, it says doctor, so it might be a doctor show, or it might be a detective. I don't know. But it's a show named after a dude, and his personality is quite, I don't know, he's quite rude, which I think kind of fits with Sherlock Holmes, maybe. But I can't think of any better guesses here. I'm sure this is wrong, but whatever, I got nothing. Question 2, this dead person is very much alive is the Spanish title for a film where some dudes spend a weekend at the beach house of their CEO, who has what first name? I think this is Bernie. I think this is Weekend at Bernie's, which is, I've never seen this movie. And I know almost nothing about it, but I know that it involves like dead people being alive or something. I don't know. I have no idea what happens in this movie, but I've seen like a video or something that talked about it and like sort of hinted at the plot. So this just kind of came to me when I read the question. I was like, maybe it's this, but I don't know a thing about the movie other than, I guess, the only piece of information I need. Question 3. What term is used in croquet for the hoops that balls are struck through? These are wickets. This is a structure composed of 3 stumps and 2 balls, which is a cricket wicket. Question 4. I guess I'll say wickets. Question 4. What rock band went under the name The Knobs during a tour in Denmark because they'd named themselves after an eponymous company that suffered a 1937 accident, etc., etc. So this, I think, is probably Led Zeppelin because, like, I didn't know that Zeppelin was a company. I just thought it was like a name for a blimp, but I think it might be a company. I mean, I figure the 1937 accident is the Hindenburg, and you know, a 1970 tour. So this is clearly a band that was around in the 60s, and I mean, Led Zeppelin is named after a blimp which had an accident, which so it makes perfect sense. I think so. I think this should be the answer. Question 5. The chocolate-coated nougat bar sold in the U.S. as Three Musketeers is sold under a different name globally. And the same name is used in the U.S. for chocolate and caramel-coated nougat bar known as a Mars bar. Chocolate caramel nougat, I just say Milky Way. Like, at least in the U.S., like, I can't think of another bar that has those specific ingredients, so I think it's just Milky Way. I did not know the Three Musketeers was called Milky Way elsewhere, but I think that should be the answer. I'm not positive, but I have nothing else. And finally, question 6. Honestly, I wouldn't know the answer for this unless Benny, who I remember we were talking about clue weapons at some point, and he was like, there was a trivia question that was talking about the knife from Clue. And he was like, wait a second, it's not called a knife, it's called a dagger. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? It's definitely called a knife. But apparently in the British version, it's called a dagger, and that was what he was used to. So I'm pretty sure that one of the 2 weapons that has completely different names in the 2 versions is the knife, because it's called a dagger in Cluedo. So that is these. And I feel like I've probably done decently with this. Question 1 I think is wrong, but the rest of this I feel like is pretty solid. I'm wondering whether to enhance 2 or 4, because those seem like the harder ones that I have. I think I think I'm actually gonna enhance number 2 because I actually feel pretty confident that this is the answer. So we're gonna go with that. Bicycles, just knock those out. And Bernie is correct. House is actually correct. Wow. I honestly I didn't think it would be. Spanner, wrench, dagger, knife, milk. Good lord. So I just got 6 out of 6 on a pop culture quiz, which I don't know if that's happened before. That's kind of nuts. That is a rarity for me. And, I'd be really glad about this. I am really glad about this. You know what I'm not glad about is that quiz 4 is another pop culture quiz. It's just 6 more pop culture questions, which is really annoying because I did really well with the first one and I am not going to do well with this one, and I'm sad about it. So, desktop audio should be functioning, so hopefully you guys should be able to hear what comes out of this. But I'm going to play the clips. These are just clips from like talks and interviews with people, but this first one, instructed to follow the cadence of a text-to-speech program, there was vocal processing, and the voice became recognizable as that of what character. So hopefully this just plays. I don't think there's anything sensitive on the screen. No, that should be fine.
Perfect. Please move quickly to the chamber lock.
I believe it is playing.
As the effects of prolonged exposure to the button are not part of this test.
So that's that. I listened to this, and I have no clue at all. I cannot think of any notable character that has like a female text-to-speechy voice. I'm gonna say Siri, which isn't even a character. It's like a, it's like Apple's. I mean, you guys know what Siri is, but I'm sure this is wrong. But I cannot think of anything for this, so I'm just gonna give up and say Siri. Question 2. We can listen to this.
And the way the script's written, he's written as this sort of eloquent Southern gentleman, someone who's used to oratory, who's used to speaking, who likes the sound of his own voice, who speaks his thoughts to get his head together. So it was just there. So I just, I filled in the gaps.
All right. So this is a British actor who spoke in a non-British accent in what film? And the only part of that clip that was at all helpful was the fact that apparently the guy he was portraying was Southern, had presumably an American Southern accent. But again, I can't think of any reasonable guess for this. I'm going to guess No Country for Old Men because that is a movie that has a lot of people with Southern accents in it, but I'm almost certain that this is going to be wrong. But again, I have no idea who the person is who's talking, so I got nothing. Question 3.
You okay? Well, considering that you just saved me from drowning in a toilet, I'm, pretty good. I'll be right back.
Does this make my butt look smaller?
Your butt looks fine. Those guys are just jerks. I wasn't aware the school even had a litter monitor. Are you going to pick that up?
So I read through this question before clicking on it, and even before I clicked on the clip, I thought it could be talking about Alvin and the Chipmunks because vocal processing effects placed on characters' voices makes a lot of sense, given the Chipmunks have ridiculously high voices. And there are 3 characters, which makes sense. Franchise existed since 1958. I think that also checks out. So I'm just going to say Alvin or Simon or Theodore, doesn't matter. But I think this is probably correct. One of them talked about drowning in a toilet too, which sounds like a thing a chipmunk might do. So, makes sense. And yeah, on we go to clip 4.
I know that is not what you want to hear, but there is no other way. As long as I am your leader, I am going to tell you always when you are wrong.
So this clip to me sounds like, it sounds like whoever he's portraying is African, and that's really all I can get out of this. I'm trying to think, what African person would you do a biopic about? And it's like, I don't know. It's probably some kind of leader. He literally says he's a leader, so it's a leader of some kind. I'm thinking, okay, Nelson Mandela, like, who are other famous African leaders? Like Idi Amin, Robert Mugabe, like Jomo Kenyatta. I mean, there aren't that many options I feel like you can ask about. But I don't know, honestly, what this is. I'm just going to guess Mandela because it seems like the most likely. Like, I don't think, like, Idi Amin and Robert Mugabe, like, yeah, they're notable figures, but they're not exactly well remembered, I feel. And other ones just seem a little bit too obscure to be the answer, so I'm just going to say Mandela, but I have no idea. Question 5. Actor Charles Martinet discusses his process for coming up for the iconic voice, or with the iconic voice, for what character?
And I thought, well, okay. Hey, get out of my face, I'm working here. And I thought, well, that doesn't sound like fun all day. And what if they're children? And I thought, well, I'll have more fun with it. I'll just, nice guy. I played Gremio in Taming of the Shrew some years before in the theater. And I thought, I'll do that, but I'll make him younger and make it happy.
All right, so once again, no clue. Just no clue. I don't... Like, this quiz, to me, is insanely hard, and I don't know if it's just me being bad at this very particular thing, but it's like, I am not getting anything from most of these questions. Like, I don't recognize this guy's voice, and the only clips that you hear of him actually doing the voice are, like, the one where he sounds angry for, like, a second, and then him being more happy, but then it's like 2/3 of it is like bleeped out, so you can't even really hear the voice. So I just have no clue. Like, my thought was like, I thought of like Elmer Fudd, but that doesn't make any sense, I feel, because he's saying like the character has to be happy, which I feel like Elmer Fudd is not generally very happy about things. So this is like someone who's supposed to be more friendly, but I just don't. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll say like Bugs Bunny or something. I mean, this is like hilariously wrong, but I have no clue what's happening. So I just have to give up and say whatever. I don't have this. Question 6. We can listen to this.
It was kind of like when everyone sings happy birthday to you on your birthday, and you're kind of like, I can't sing it because it's my birthday, but if I don't want to look ungrateful, but I'm also deeply uncomfortable right now. And you're trying to be a good sport, but does that make you look weird and vain? I don't know. I was so mortified. I think I kind of.
This is kind of a long clip. I'm not even hearing anything. I'm just clicking.
It's
like a 4.5
I'm going to
minute
brace
long song.
myself for the next time that happens, so I handle it better.
All right, so this to me sounds like Margot Robbie, the voice. I mean, it's Australian, and I don't know. I mean, an Australian actress. I mean, it makes sense that it might be Margot Robbie. So I thought it could just be Barbie because she's obviously American in that film, and I can't think of a better answer. So I'm just going to say that. But this quiz was a total nightmare for me, and it was really a shame to do really well for once with the pop culture quiz and then have quiz 4 just be like, haha, just kidding. It's all pop culture again. Because the media quiz is sometimes largely pop culture. Like sometimes it's like music clips, but also it's sometimes like pictures of things which are less directly, related to movies and TV and stuff. But whatever, it's fine. At least I did well on the previous one. I'm gonna money number 3, and I'm just gonna go ahead and submit this. I do not see this going well for me, but such is life. Barbie is correct. Mandela is correct. Okay, you know what? It's 3 out of 6. That's honestly fine. What the hell is GLaDOS? I have never heard of that. I have no idea what GLaDOS is. I wish they had put in some sort of explanation because I've never heard of that in my life. Knives Out is a famous movie, but it's not one that I've seen, so I'm not getting it. And Mario. Who is that just Mario? Either first or very funny. Is that like Mario from the Mario games? I guess that makes sense. Happy sounding character. Although there was nothing in that clip that sounded remotely like Mario to me, so I'm not even sure how I'm supposed to get to that, but sure. The part of the voice that was like actually the voice was so short and abbreviated that I didn't get Mario from that at all, but sure. I'll take it. 3 out of 6 is better than I thought on that, so that's fine. Question 5 is a geography and culture quiz. Question 1 is the one that I am having the most trouble with. It's an aerial view of part of what square in the column that is the square's focal point. So my first thought here was that it was London, and that it was Trafalgar Square and Nelson's Column. But I am decently sure that we're driving on the right here. I can't really tell because there's not... I mean, these cars here look like they're on the right, and then these cars in the bottom left also look like they're on the right, which would eliminate London, which made me think maybe it's Paris, and I thought it could be like Place de la Concorde or Place de la Bastille or something like that. But again, I don't really feel good at all about either of those answers. But I'm going to say Concorde, probably, and just be wrong. It looks like Europe to me, but I don't have much more than that. This is just a hard question, honestly. Question 2. Moscow's Red Square is home to St. Basil's Cathedral, or Basil. I don't actually know what it is, but I think it's probably Basil. Anyway, the colorful domed tops is definitely St. Basil's. Question 3. The Piazza Navona has a bunch of fountains in it. The Dei Quattro Fiumi is the fountain of the four rivers. So these are fountains. Question 4. I'm not sure about this one either. Confederation Square in Ottawa and Syntagma Square in Greece are two of many places worldwide that house monuments with the same dedicatee, which is a non-specific person, which makes me think it could be like the unknown soldier, like the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. I know is a thing that exists in the US and could easily exist in other places. So it's like a monument to people who died in battle, but their names weren't known, basically. So that's what I'll go with for number 4. The large plaza in Buenos Aires is named for, I believe, May. I think it's the Plaza de Mayo, unless I'm confusing it with something else, but I think it is the Plaza de Mayo. And then question 6, the Grand Place in Brussels produces a giant carpet made of what things? I don't know. Looks kind of cool. I mean, I have no idea. My best guess that I could think of was flowers. I mean, I feel like you could make a display like that out of flowers, but it could be literally anything. It could be Legos. It could be, I mean, it could be anything that has color. So I'm sure this is wrong, but I have nothing better. So yeah. As for what to enhance, I think I probably go with 3. I think is easy. 2, I think that's pretty easy. I'll probably go with 5. I don't think it's particularly hard, but none of the other ones are ones that I'm confident about, so I think I'm just going to go with 5 to be safe. Is that a bus? Can't tell. Maybe. Nope. Apparently not. Stairs. Nope, no stairs there. Stairs here, here, here. All right. Flowers is correct. May is correct. The Unknown Soldier. Wow. Sorry, excuse me? Did the UK drive on the right 100 years ago? How? There were multiple cars in that picture that were pretty clearly on the right. That's kind of wild. I don't know if it was because it was some kind of roundabout, so it was like different or something, or that's incredibly deceptive because I looked long and hard at that photo trying to figure out if we were driving on the left or right, and it took me a while, but I ended up coming to the conclusion that we were on the right. So that's kind of wild because that was my first thought, and I totally just chickened out of it. So that's kind of tough. But hey, the other 5 were right, and Unknown Soldier I wasn't sure about, and Flowers was a total guess. So I'm actually kind of surprised, pleasantly surprised by the result of that quiz. Now I'm going to go to quiz number 7 and then come back to number 6. I'll explain why in a sec. But quiz 7 is a history quiz. A Tahitian sailor was hired to guide what non-Polynesian during his first voyage aboard the Endeavour in the late 18th century. This is going to be James Cook. Captain James Cook, who is, I don't know, he's just famous. The guy who sailed a lot in that part of the world. Question 2. The Zij-i-Sultani, an astronomical chart, was compiled in the mid-15th century by Ulugh Beg, a sultan of what empire, at an observatory in Samarkand. So this one has been messing with my head because this is something I feel like I should absolutely know. but I am not sure that I do. I was thinking it could be like the Mongols, but the Mongols are like, they have like khans, not sultans, so it seems kind of wrong. And I don't know, like the Mongols took many different forms and had many different like subdivisions and khanates and stuff, so I don't, it might just be the Mongol Empire, but it doesn't feel right to me. A sultan of the Mongol Empire just kind of feels like not the answer. So I was trying to think of other stuff. I thought of the Mughals, which also sort of made sense, except they're mostly in India, and I'm sure the Mughal Empire went a little farther than just India. But I also, first of all, their rulers were called emperors. I mean, because it's, I don't know, an empire. But I also know the names of like pretty much all of the major Mughal emperors, like Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb and Babur, etc. And I've never heard of this guy, so this is that seems kind of weird to me. And I also feel like Samarkand is probably too far north to have been in the Mughal Empire anyway. And then I was thinking stuff like the Mauryans, but they were also India, which also seems a bit weird. And then there's like Persia. There's a bunch of different like the Sassanids and the Safavids and the whatever, the Achaemenids. I don't know. There are a bunch of Persian ones, but again, Iran seems a little bit too far west to be the answer. The only thing I came up with that I feel could even possibly be correct is the Timurids, which, like, Timur was, I think he was like a Mongol, but he, like, I know that he conquered much of Central Asia, and it's the only empire I can think of that I know is in that particular geographical region. I don't know if the timing is correct, but I think it's decent. I feel like this is a hard question, and I did way too much explaining, but it was basically just process of elimination. This is the only thing that came to my mind that makes any sense at all. So I'm going to go with this, and we will see. Question 3, a star with a streaming tail, which is the first known depiction of Halley's Comet, appears on the Bayeux Tapestry. I think it's pronounced Bayeux, I'm not actually sure, but anyway, it's something like that. It's the thing that depicts the, is it the Battle of Hastings? I think it's the Battle of Hastings. But it's a famous, well, it's a very famous old work of art that has Halley's Comet on it. So I'm quite sure that that's correct. I don't think it's very easy, though. Question 4. The Miracle of the Sun was a 1917 event in the city of Fatima in Portugal. This is a famous, like Our Lady of Fatima also shares its name with a notable figure from Islam. That's the daughter of Muhammad. This, by the way, the first A has an accent on it, let it be known, but I don't have accents on this keyboard, so tough. But anyway, this is called Fatima, I believe, and it's a famous event that the sun supposedly like turned different colors and went all over the place, which is obviously complete nonsense. But anyway, that's what supposedly happened. But more realistically, it was just like, mass psychogenic illness or something. Anyway, I get most of my information from Salmonella videos, if you couldn't tell. And if you don't know who Salmonella is, look up Salmonella Academy on YouTube. You will not be disappointed. Amazing, very funny history videos. Anyway, question 5. 2 stars within a blue pentagon featured on the flag of what organization that disbanded in 1946? I'm not sure, but an organization that disbanded right after World War II. I'm pretty sure the UN formed right after World War II, which means it would make sense if the League of Nations disbanded at the same time. I don't know what the logo for the League of Nations looks like, but it certainly could be this, so that's what I'm going to go with. And then finally, Mayan city-states often engaged in conflicts now known as Star Wars that occurred during astronomical anomalies involving the visibility of what celestial body. I don't know, but I'm going to go with maybe Venus. I've heard of the evening star and the morning star. I don't know what they refer to, but Venus is a body that shines, I think, sometimes brighter than stars just because of how close it is, and shows up in the sky at weird times, maybe. I don't know. So I'm just going to go with Venus. I'm not sure that this is right, but just going to send it in anyway, and I will enhance number 3, the tapestry, because I think that's the hardest one that I am sure about. And Venus is correct. League of Nations, Fatima, wow, that's actually 6 out of 6. I cannot believe Timurid was correct. I feel very happy with myself for getting that one, because that's quite hard, I think. And yeah, I'm glad that my extensive thought process for that question actually worked. So, the final quiz, to make up for the 2 full pop culture quizzes, we have a math quiz, which I am very happy about. Some people would be substantially less so, but I'm happy about it. So let's go ahead and work through the math quiz. First, we have 3 non-computational questions. If a line intersects a circle in one place, it's called a tangent line. If it intersects a circle in 2 places, it is called a secant. Question number 2 is the one that I'm not actually sure about, but if a circle can be drawn around a given quadrilateral such that all 4 of its vertices lie on the circle, it is called cyclic. The area of cyclic quadrilaterals can be found using a formula named for what Indian mathematician? I do not know a lot of Indian mathematicians, if I'm being honest. The one I can think of is Ramanujan, who's probably the most famous one. I think Bose is also, Bose I think is more of a scientist rather than a mathematician. Ramanujan is honestly the only Indian mathematician I can think of, so this is just what I'm going to go with. I've unfortunately never heard of this formula. Question number 3, a shape is called constructible if it can be drawn using a straight edge and a compass. And it shares its name, of course, with another tool, which is, the compass that you're probably used to. And now we get to the computational questions. I have a whiteboard open in my browser this time because last time I tried to explain it all in words and it was just kind of confusing. And this one's going to be even worse if I do that, so I'm going to try and do it on a whiteboard. First of all, this one I think I don't need the whiteboard for, but the next one I will. Anyway, a square is inscribed in a circle of radius 1, meaning all the vertices of the square precisely touch the circle to the nearest hundredth. What is the area of the shaded region? So, all right, so I have 10 minutes to do this before the deadline, so I need to hurry up. But we have, okay, so if you have a circle with a square in it, so we can make a circle like so, and we can make a square like so. If you have a square inscribed in a circle, you can do this with it. So this, if the circle has a radius of 1, this is of course 1, this is 1, etc., etc. You can draw these as well. These of course are all length 1. So by the Pythagorean theorem, which says that a squared plus b squared equals c squared for any right triangle, this for example is a right triangle. So by the Pythagorean theorem, this side up here has a length of root 2. So the area of the square would be root 2 times root 2. I really wish I could do something other than write with a mouse, but the area is that, which equals 2. The area of the square, that is. So the area of the circle is pi r squared, which is pi times 1, which is just pi. So, which is, of course, approximately 3.14. So, the area of the circle minus the square is 1.14. And so 1.14 is this part plus this part plus this part plus this part. And the shaded region we're asked about is just the one on the left. So it's just 1/4 of 1.14. So 1.14 over 4. I did this all in my head, by the way, so I hope I'm not screwing this up. But 1.14 over 2 is 0.57, and that over 2 again is point. Wait a second. Wait a second. Why did I did this? So when I did this in my head the first time, I did it wrong, and now I'm having to do it on the fly. Okay, the area of the shaded region. So the whole thing is pi. The square is 2. So it's 1.14 divided by, so that's correct. So it's 0.57 divided by 2, which is 0.285. And since pi is 3.141, so it's a little greater, then it should be a little greater than 0.285, which should round to 0.29. Okay, this one, I'm going to quickly do number 6 because it's easy. we have the perimeter. What is the perimeter of the polygon seen below if the circle has a radius of 1? So if the circle has a radius of 1, then it has a diameter of 2. So if you imagine the circle was just inside a square instead, the square would have side length 2, so the perimeter would be 8. This obviously isn't a square. It has some weird, wacky, like, divots in it. But if you think about it, if you just think about this top left corner, you can just move this vertical bit over here and move this horizontal bit over here, and you just have a normal square. So this perimeter is no different from the perimeter of it if it were a square. And it's the same deal with the bottom. Like, these corners, you can just, like, move the sides down and to the right, and they just become an actual square, if that makes sense. So the perimeter should still just be 8. I really hope I don't get one of these wrong because I'm rushing, but I am going to try and explain the final question in under 8 minutes, and I hope I'm going to be able to do it. But this one gave me hell. I was looking at this problem for a little over 2 hours probably, and I think I've finally found a solution, but it is almost certainly not the intended solution. But I'm going to explain how I thought about this. So we'll read it first. Square isn't the only shape that can be inscribed in a circle. Any regular polygon can be inscribed in a circle. What is the smallest whole number n such that when you inscribe a regular polygon with n sides in a circle of radius 1, that polygon's area is greater than 3? So if we go back to the whiteboard here, let me just get rid of all this crap. I don't know if there's an erase button, but I don't see it. Oh, there is one here. Yeah. It's still not working. Okay. Apparently I can't get rid of the... What is this, man? I don't have time for this. Okay, so I'm going to create a few circles here, so bear with me. Circle, give me another circle, and another circle, and another circle. Okay, so the first thing I was trying to do here was... I was just inscribing polygons and circles and kind of seeing what happened. So the first thing I did was a triangle. Boy, I feel like I'm going to run out of time. I hope that they can be lenient with giving me a couple extra seconds for this. Okay, this is super annoying. I'm going to draw this manually. Okay, so triangle. If you inscribe an equilateral triangle in a circle, it looks like that. We can do the square, which is what we had before. We can look at the pentagon. I didn't find to be particularly useful, but we could look at a hexagon. And then the last one I was thinking about was an octagon. You know, this is just a total mess, but you get the idea. Okay, I need to pay attention to time here. So my thought process here, I was trying to find some kind of pattern with these things. So I was drawing lines out like this to the vertices and like kind of seeing what happened. And I tried so many things to find a pattern in this. I found that the area of the inscribed triangle was 3 root 3 over 4, which is like 1 point, I don't even remember. It's 1 point something, 1.2 something. The area of the square is 2, which we determined before. The area of the hexagon I found was exactly double the area of the triangle. So this was 6 root 3 over 4. And the I don't even remember. I don't have my notes next to me. So I don't even remember what the octagon was, and it was a pain to figure out anyway. But basically what I was trying to do was figure out patterns, and I thought, oh, it's doubling from the triangle to the hexagon, so there's some sort of doubling going on. But it didn't hold up for the square and the octagon, because like you can see if you draw an equilateral triangle within the hexagon, you can kind of see how it splits it in half. So you can sort of see how all these sections are equal to each other, so that's why it doubles. But the doubling didn't hold up, and I was trying to do stuff with like ratios to like figure out like how the smaller ones related to the bigger ones, but I couldn't figure anything out. So this was probably like the 5th thing that I tried. And like I said, it took me like 2 hours to get to this point, and I was really desperate trying to figure anything out. But if you have some arbitrary triangle, we'll call it A, B, C. I was trying to figure out, can you figure out the areas of these little triangles that you create when you draw these lines out to the vertices? The hexagon's a mess, but like, you see how you have a triangle here, a triangle here, a triangle here, and here you have a triangle, 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 triangle. Okay, so I was trying to figure out, like, can you reliably figure out the areas of these triangles? I just realized that my face cam is over the triangle. I have 3 minutes. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna do this again really, really quickly. So if we have a triangle here, if we call this A, I said this was C and this is B. So if we say this is side A, this is side C, this is side B. Okay, so the area of this triangle is of course 1/2 base times height. That's the normal formula for the area of a triangle. However, if you have, I was trying to figure out, can you figure out the area of a triangle if you have a central angle such as this up here and the sides between it? So you have the radius and the radius. So I figured out, I knew that there was a formula for this that involved like trig and the sine of the angle, but as it turns out, if you basically draw a right triangle here, I'm really rushing this, so I'm sorry, but there's a deadline. So if you draw a right triangle here, basically if you have angle A, side B, and side C, you can figure out the area of the triangle, because this ends up being, so the sine of the angle A is this height divided by the hypotenuse, which is B. So sine A equals height over B. So the height is equal to B times sine A. And then the base of the triangle is C. So the area of the triangle is A equals 1/2 times side B times side C times the sine of angle A. So I was trying to, now you're not allowed a calculator for this, so I was kind of like worried because I don't know the signs of angles other than like the ones that are known. So like, I mean, the ones that everybody knows, like sine of 90 and 60 and 30 and 45, that kind of stuff. So there wasn't very much I could do with this. But I basically figured out, for example, with the square, it's a 90-degree angle. The sine of that is 1. So the area of the triangle is 1/2 times 1 times 1 times the sine of 1, or of 90, which is 1. So anyway, each triangle is 1/2, so the area is 2, so that checks out because there are 4 of them. So what I was doing was I was trying to do this for shapes of higher numbers of sides. So I tried this for the octagon, for example. So if you think about an octagon, if you split it up like this and you have like 8 different things, if you're splitting it up into 8 angles, each central angle is going to be 360 divided by 8, which is 45, and the sine of 45 is root 2 over 2. So each triangle is 1/2 times 1 times 1 times root 2 over 2, so root 2 over 4 times 8, because there are 8 sides in the octagon, which gives you 2 root 2 as the total area inside the octagon, which was still less than 3. And then the last thing I thought to try, because the only other thing I could do, was try a dodecagon, which has 12 sides. And it turns out, if you calculate the area of the dodecagon with this formula, calculating the areas of the 12 individual triangles and adding them up, because the triangles have central angles of 30, the sine of 30 is 1/2. If you calculate the area of the dodecagon, you get 1/2 times 1/2 times 1 times 1 times 12. 12 times 1/2 times 1/2 equals 3 exactly. So I did this with a 12-sided polygon and I got exactly 3. So if the dodecagon has an area of exactly 3 when the circle has an area of pi, then the smallest whole number, n, where you can inscribe a regular polygon with n sides and the polygon's area is greater than 3, the smallest possible n would be 13. That was incredibly rushed, and I really wish I had more time to explain that. But 13 is correct. Thank God. Okay, Brahmagupta. That's tough. That is tough. I have heard that name before, but I'm not getting that. So that's a hard question. I did not ace the math quiz because they gave us a genuinely difficult question. It's just you know it or you don't. But I think that I got the 3 computational problems correct, unless I typed one of those things in wrong. Oh my god. That was kind of crazy, but hopefully you were sort of able to follow. I mean, I can do a little bit more explaining here. The octagon, I don't think I even drew this very well at all. But these all should, I think, end up being 45-degree angles. So you kind of see my point, how if you split 360 degrees X times, it splits it into like manageable central angles. But the problem was, if the answer was something other than like, 13 or whatever, then I don't know what I would have done, because the only values I know for sine are like 30, 45, 60. So if it had been something else, and the intended strategy presumably was to do this a way other than what I did, because like, what the heck is this? Yeah, I wish I had had more time to think through this problem and think of solutions. But I was just trying to figure out patterns with like the ratios of things, and I just could not do it. I couldn't get anywhere. So I eventually was like, okay, can I use trig for this? Is there something I can do with the angles, calculating the actual areas of the shapes? Because like, I was able to calculate the areas of the triangles when I had nice numbers, like with the triangle and the hexagon and the square, but then it kind of broke down after that, and I wasn't able to really figure anything out beyond that. So, thank goodness for trig, I guess. So yeah, when you split up 360 12 times, you get 12 30-degree angles. And if you calculate the areas of those triangles using this formula, apparently the dodecagon has an area of 3. So that's how I sorted that out, but that problem was really hard. So yeah, there's, I think, probably like maybe like 3 of you even followed what the hell was going on there. And I'm very interested to see Benny's write-up for the solution to this, because I am sure that there is something more elegant that I could have done for this, because this was a total mess. But what matters is that I got there in the end. I found a solution, so I'm happy with myself for that. And yeah, that is going to do it for me. Apologies for dragging you guys through that, although to be fair, if you weren't interested in watching this, you probably didn't watch it, so yeah. Anyway, we got scores. I finished 3rd overall for the week, which is great. Perfect score on the secret theme, enhanced well. Perfect score on the pop culture, didn't enhance perfectly, but I think the one I didn't enhance was the one I wasn't even sure about. Yeah, quiz 3 was rough, but I guess it could have been worse. And actually, apparently, Alvin and the Chipmunks was one of the harder ones, so I'll take that. Geo quiz was good. I think I enhanced the hardest question there, so that's nice. The math was 0.78. 0.82 was harder, so I think the Brahmagupta question was harder than the one that I got. So, the hard comp one. So if 22% of people got that, there must have been an easier way, because I do not think that 22% of the people playing this quiz would be able to do what I just did, because my method was ridiculous. There has to have been a better way, but I really, really, really want to know what it was. And I apologize that I could not have given you guys the best way to solve that problem, and instead I gave you the absolute nightmare that I gave you. But anyway, that's going to do it for me. I appreciate you guys. Oh, you can't see the score. Yeah, here I am in 3rd place. So a very, very solid performance overall. I'm quite happy with that. And 6 on the pop culture is kind of crazy, but yeah, I'll take it. It was a good time. So yeah, thank you all for watching, of course. Hope you enjoyed, even with the extremely excessive waffling on the math. But whenever there's a math quiz, that's just what's going to happen, so you're going to have to deal with it. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you to all. 67 of you who played some or all of the quizzes in week 2. And I will see you again very soon for week number 3. And yeah, thanks for watching, and until then.